All right. Give it a second to catch over.
My eyes are only good at seeing at fencing distance.
Yeah, no, I mean, it happens, right?
With glasses, I can see all distances.
Exactly. Well, we got one person watching, so let's see how it goes today. Anyway, hi, and welcome to our stream. Hopefully everything's going to be working here. This is our first time. Bear with us, and hopefully everything is going to work out, and we're going to answer your questions. But yeah, this mostly is a test for us. This is the first time that myself is streaming. This is Seiji. Seiji is our leader of the Davis Historical Fencing Club over at UC Davis. He's also one of our instructors here at Sacramento. And so, yeah, we're going to give this a try. If you have any questions, please feel free. Sky Captain, I see we got at least one person viewing today, so awesome. Seiji, while we're waiting and do this, let's see, how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing this about 5 years.
About 5 years now? What got you into HEMA? What got you started?
So you hear a lot of other HEMAists. They stereotypically talk about ever since being a little kid. They've always been interested in swords. For me, what started was, I believe, in 2012. So that was like the end of my freshman year of high school. I went to a local park to go bike riding with some friends. And then under a grove of redwood trees, there was a bunch of people with long swords fencing.
Nice.
And they turned out to be part of Skull of St. George. So that's an organization that studies armezzato, which is the Italian art of combat, according to Fiore de Liberi.
Right,
and
yeah.
My first instructor was Colin Gabriel Hatcher. So if you're watching this, Colin, shout outs to you. Thank you for starting out on me on this crazy journey. And then eventually I moved to college around this area, UC Davis, and now
we're here. Excellent, awesome, very cool. Yeah, so hopefully what we're going to be doing here for these videos, if people like them, is get to know some of our instructors, answer some of your questions. We're also going to try and spend some time showing you some of the techniques, some of the different material, the way that we teach it here. So we focus specifically on Meyer, right? Like that's our thing. But at the same time, for me, Meyer's great, right? Reading the book, it's fabulous, but it's full of pitfalls, right? There are so many traps that people run into when picking up Meyer for the first time, right? Like you pick open that book and it's thick and there's so much to look at, there's so much to see. And what do? What was the first thing you did the first time you picked up Meyer and took a look at it?
I looked at the images.
Looked at the images, right? Yeah, absolutely. And you're like, these are amazing, these are crazy, what am I looking at? You don't even know what you're looking at, right? Like all these different images that your eyes don't even know how to interpret. What happened when you first started reading it? Did you run into anything that confused you, that was problematic for you?
Yeah, it was just a lot of material in there, especially with the longsword section, a lot of plays. And at first I couldn't get out a system of why he was doing these things, as opposed to, it felt like just a bunch of action sequences, and even reading his Dusac section, which is more structured in a modern way. Like his device on steer is just, even today, I have a really hard time understanding what he's trying to practice and what he's trying to focus on. Yeah,
right, because there's so many motions, right? Like so many of the techniques have a million different things, it seems like, is going on. There's that famous image of somebody had done a drawing a few years ago of the different fencing masters, right? And like Fiore wants to get into a wrestling match and beat you up, and Meyer is thought to do all these a million cuts to tie your sword into knots. And I think that's created false impressions, right, of what Meyer is doing. For myself, my pitfall was I got the book back in 2004 for the first time in the English translation, started reading through it, and I did what so many people do. I hit that first section where he is just given a glossary, right? He's just explaining the different elements of the art, and so some of these different terms he's going to be using, and I felt it was so necessary that I be able to do each and every of the cuts, the secondary cuts, all of the handworks, right? Like all of this stuff. Oh, there's no way that I can understand this if I don't understand what he's telling me right now, which I don't know about you, but for myself, I've found to be a mistake, right? Like that's not what you want to do. You don't want to read that first section and stop there. You want to read through that and keep moving past that and actually then get into the meat. Get into the devices, read through them, but don't hang out, don't get obsessed at that point. Keep reading on top of it, and then push into the Dusac, push into the rapier, read through ringen, read through dagger, read through all the staff weapons, and along the way, you suddenly see little things, right? Those little things that he really should have put at the beginning. My personal favorite, guys, is page 217 in the Foreign translation, where Meyer gives his summary of combat with the rapier, except he mentions that it's not just with the rapier, it's any other weapon. And he outlines right there how he wants you to fight, how he wants you to approach someone, how he wants you to test them, how he wants you to see what they're going to do, and if they won't attack, then start to give them openings, and if they won't take those, then you're going to have to attack, and how to safely approach their openings. I love it. And it's the summary, right? It's the end. No, man, this should be at the beginning. This should have been the foreword. This should have been the introduction, in my opinion. What about yourself? Any favorite parts, anything like that you wish?
Yeah, I share a similar view with you. I think it's a view that has earned you the name of a heretic within the Meyer community.
You're right, yeah.
Is that you learn Meyer's longsword, you don't read his longsword. You have to first read his dissect and his rapier section. And in those sections, he explains explicitly why he teaches you these things, and more specifically his tactical model and also the tactical model of fencing in general. And once you have an understanding, especially of his rapier section, where he specifically mentioned that he implies that fencing is really about controlling the space between your opponent and dominating the center line. If you achieve those things, then you got your opponent.
Yeah, especially, guys, if you're not familiar with what one of the parts that he talks about that, in the straight parrying section of the rapier, he talks about deceit and how to protect yourself against deceit, and really, not going more than a hand's breadth or a foot's length away from the center, away from yourself or away from your opponent. And that really is a strong lesson in controlling that middle, that as soon as you're doing these big sweeping cuts to either side, you're opening yourself up, you're yielding the center to your opponent, and especially if they're willing to thrust, you're about to get stabbed in the face. I know that's one of my favorite things to do against people that'll do it. I know Meyer doesn't thrust. No, Meyer loves the thrust. He does it all over the place. So that's an excellent point.
But after reading those sections and understanding his essence of his art, then first, you should obviously read his longsword section, but once you understand his tactical model and at least glossed over his dissect and rapier section, read through the longsword section, especially read his staff section. I have yet to do that, but Ted here tells me I should.
The staff is great, guys. You got to read it. In the staff, he finally tells us why he's organized the book the way that he has. He notes that he goes through it. He shows all of these actions from the outer guards, from the furthest points that you're going to reach during fencing. And he tells us that he's shown those first because he wanted you to know what to do when you come into a high guard, when you come in to the side guard, that you know how to fence from there. But he really wants you to fight from the straight parry. He wants you to control that center line. And again, that's buried about halfway through the quarterstaff at the end of the book in sections that people never seem to get to a lot of the times. So read the book is probably one of the biggest things that we can recommend. It's a good point. Beyond that, today, guys, mostly is an opportunity for us to try out some of the technology. We're talking about doing this stream more often. I think we're probably seeing a little bit of lag right now because of the Wi-Fi that we're on. But if you like it, if this is something that you want to see us do more of in the future, if you want us to answer your questions and actually, try out some of those techniques, try and show you our interpretations of how we do all the different elements, let us know. Throw a comment on this when it goes up live. Hit us on Facebook and let us know, because we are really interested in trying to share this not just with our local community here in Sacramento, but beyond that for all the rest of you guys that are interested in Meyer, that have been hoping for more videos from our channel. I know we haven't had a lot going on. It's been really crazy these last year of expanding and coming up with new curriculum and new content as our interpretations of Meyer change. So yeah, it's a lot of fun stuff. So here's what I want to do, I think. Because we got a couple of people watching right now, and we should give them something interesting. So in particular, I think what we're going to do, guys, is a question, or rather a problem, not necessarily a question, but something I see a lot when people are interpreting Meyer, is that their footwork is kind of all over the place. They don't necessarily, they haven't maybe taken one of the classes from Roger Norling, or they haven't worked with the material enough and they're not applying some of the things that we see in those images that you mentioned. And so maybe we'll look at that a little bit for people and just give you a quick little lesson in Meyer footwork, how to stand like Meyer, how to hit some of those positions, and some of the advantages that come with the footwork when you look at it the way that Meyer really kind of shows us. What do you think?
I think, yeah, that would be a good place to start. And after, I know it's something that you like to talk about with the whole general misconception that Meyer's longsword doesn't thrust at all, and that he doesn't know how to control his center.
No, that's true. But maybe we'll save that for next time, right? We don't necessarily need to be completely controversial on stabbing right off the bat. Maybe that'll be next week, and we'll do a period of actually thrusting and making that happen.
We're good at stabbing.
Yeah, right. We like to stab each other. But to be fair, we actually have a rule here in the club, right? Because there's a number of different Meyer practitioners in our greater area, but there are also a lot of people that are doing Fiore, that are doing earlier Lichtenauer, that are doing material that wants to stab us. So kind of our tradition and our solution in the club is that while we will practice the thrust in terms of technique and drill, in actual sparring or tournaments, anybody that's a Meyer practitioner in the area won't try and stab each other. It's not something that we're going to do. But if there's someone from another club, we'll stab the hell out of them. I will thrust them right in the face, believing that they're Italian. In class itself, we usually, are wearing red jackets when we're doing our practice, but we do have some people that have black jackets, like Seiji does. So anybody in a black jacket are our designated Italian. So if it's an in-club tournament, if it's in-club free sparring, if we're doing anything like that, black jackets are Italians. They can stab you or be thrust upon at any time, and it's a nice little thing that we're going. We got a quick question. Excellent. Sky Captain, have we heard about the upcoming tournament in Sacramento? Yes, we have, because we're hosting it. So it is this Saturday. It is going to be here at the Sacramento Turnverein, 3349 J Street, just outside Midtown Sacramento, from about 10 a.m. until probably about 5 p.m. Come on down, watch. It's open to the public to come in and view for free, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a long day of fighting. Our tournament format's really cool. We do a single exchange kind of first blood tournament where people get one pass at each other, and once the exchange is played out, if there's a clear result, one person is going to be potentially scored a victor, the other person is going to be counted as a loser. We actually track both wins and losses. So you can win the exchange, gaining a point, and the other person will lose a life. You can have doubles where both people are going to be penalized and marked as a loss. There's also scenarios that can result in a draw where one person doesn't win a point, but the other person is deducted one life from it. So that will be fun. We'll be doing both Dusac and then Longsword afterwards on Saturday. So yeah, please come on down. Rob, excellent. Look at that. We're getting some people. Beautiful. Guys, if you don't know Rob Rutherford, you need to watch his videos.
I've watched all of your videos. Yeah. They're great.
Rob, we're going to talk in a couple of weeks to get you to come out here in February. I know Roger's excited to have you here as well, so hopefully you're going to make it. All right. But yeah, so excellent. Let's go ahead and we'll take a look at a little bit of the footwork, and then we'll probably call it a day for today. I've got students starting to show up because we have a class in about 15 minutes getting started, and hopefully it'll be good. So anyway, as we come on back over, with the footwork, what we're going to see is we really have three stances that we're going to work on. So Seiji first, we'll get into our basic forward stance, right? Like this is the pretty typical stance for Meyer. Nice and low, bent front knee, straight back leg, butt tucked underneath the hips, body back, even looking down his nose at the person in front of him, right? You see this in Meyer a lot, looking down the nose at the person. And this is going to be our basic forward stance. It's really important, right? We want to be able to get as low as possible. Meyer mentions in the rapier that all cuts should be delivered at the height of the shoulder, and that holds true with longsword as well. It's not just going to be a situation with the rapier. If you want to cut low with the longsword, you got to get low. If you're going to bend over at the waist, you're going to get hit in the head. You're going to get hit right in the back of the head. You're going to be in a terrible structure to recover from yourself. So we've got that forward stance. Everybody's pretty familiar with that. We also have then Meyer's back stance, which really, we see it in Zornhut. All it is Meyer's forward stance, but looking over the shoulder. I mean, it's the same stance. You'll find this, that you get into this position where now, if Seiji's facing that way, forward leg is straight, back leg is bent. And it's really important here that he does this. You'll note that his feet are pointed at you right now, right? He doesn't want to have his toe left pointing away from him. So that's a good way to get his knee sniped when he tries to recover it. You should be able to lift that leg up without too much difficulty and a quick response. Yeah, I wish it would be Meyer 24/7. Absolutely. I hear you. What else we got going? Okay, so we got our forward stance. We got our back stance. The last one, and this is something that if you look at the images in Meyer, you're going to see it all over the place. It's our turned out stance. It's that transitional point as Meyer's about to take a step, or as we're going to parry, or otherwise control ourselves. So what you're seeing is Seiji's going to turn on his hips, rotating on the ball of his feet. That front leg kicks out into that wide open stance that you see. The rear heel comes up, and that's just transitory, right? He's not going to hang out in this position for a really, really long time, but it's really important because it's going to allow him to generate power, and it's going to show up throughout Meyer's art. We're going to find this all over the place, okay? So let's look at a couple of different situations for it, right? With parrying, one of the most common problems, we see this all the time, is when an action is made, what do people do? They run straight at each other, right? If we're both doing long swords, let's do the shorter ones. And Seiji decides to strike in at me, and I'm going to step forward. And now we're wrestling, right? We see this in videos all the time. Everybody's coming here, they're wrestling at the sword. This is not where we want to be. Meyer's really clear. Step away from the incoming attack, right? Make sure that you don't step towards the person or step into the attack. You can, there are times to do it, but rather step away. And so we do 3 different types of stepping away. The first, we do this for our beginners, is to just get them used to moving out of the attack. Now, this is not something ideal, but it's where we begin. And so when Seiji attacks in at me, right, I'm going to actually step back because I want to maintain that same bind distance so that I can work. I've cleared my head. There's no way, even if I didn't get, a parry up there in time, that I'm going to get struck. But that's one option. The next option is where we're going to use our triangle steps, right? And so our triangle steps are going to be laterally. So when Seiji strikes in this time, I'm going to step out away from the attack, again trying to control that center and work from there. But my favorite, and I know it's Seiji's favorite as well, is to not take a step. To use a turned out posture to actually control it. What's that? Yeah, so I'm striking into it, right? So when he comes in, I'm going to strike in, gain that bind, and immediately be working, either for a short edge strike, or if we're feeling really neat, for that thrust, mutating below, right? Now I don't do earlier Lichtenauer. I know some of this ends up looking like mutating and other stuff. It's what we found from working with the material, right? Those steps come into play. My main goal, maintain that distance in the bind. I want to put myself in a scenario where I can respond as quickly as possible, where I can actually, be ready to respond. And so when he comes in, I strike and I'm going. I've already prepared my step. I've gathered myself for my strike, and then I'm immediately ready to move forward. Even better, because the weight is going to be on my forward leg, when I go to pick up my rear leg, even if Seiji's pushing against me, so go ahead and strike in, right? He's pushing against me, I'm on my front leg, I'm driving over that front leg. It's not a problem to push into it. On the other hand, if I don't do that, and I just try and strike, right? And now I gotta move forward into Seiji. This is a lot harder, right? Seiji's a small guy. He's still really preventing me from getting it because I haven't broken his structure, I haven't taken the center. Sucks, right? So again, we're gonna strike in, I'm gonna strike through his chin, gain that center, and then just be ready to work. Keep my long edge on his, work to his openings. Bring that short edge in, get that nice head strike, turn it into a thrust, whatever we're feeling like. Incidentally, guys, these are the new VB technique fetters from Purple Heart. Love them. Absolutely love them. Highly recommended. They're awesome. At $180, you can't go wrong. These are going to be our new club standard.
I'm 5'6", about, and it goes about to the end of my beginning of my rib cage. Yeah. A little divot right there.
Yeah. So absolutely perfect. All right, guys. I do see people starting to show up. Like I said, we got about 10 minutes until class starts. I hope you've enjoyed it today. Leave us a comment. Let us know. We are going to try and do these more often. My goal, once a week, every Thursday. We might move them a little bit earlier. I might move them to 5 p.m. instead of 5:30, so I get a little bit of time before class starts. But hopefully, come on too. Ask questions. Let's have a little conversation. But for now, peace. Got anything?
Nope. See you guys.